Hey, Kelly, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Glad to be here.
So, Kelly, as you know, October is Cyber Security Awareness Month in the United States. And given everything that we see in the news, I think you have some pretty shocking numbers to show the increase of cybersecurity issues. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is a great question because of Cybersecurity Month in October. And there are so many different cyber crimes happening in the country as well as globally. But the number one cyber crime is ransomware.
Hmm.
And this is where bad actors deny computer access until you pay a ransom. And globally, ransomware is in 2020 was $20 billion
My
claims.
God.
That
Wow.
was the cost compared to 11.5 million in 2019. So things have gone up great, exponentially. The average ransom that was paid out in 2020 was 312,493, and that's about a 17% increase from 2019. So not only are the claims aren't necessarily increasing, but the monetary amount of the claims are increasing.
Now, we also talked about that. Now, should everyone be worried about cybersecurity for their personal exposure as well as business exposure?
Yeah, absolutely. As an individual, you have exposure because you think about it, all of the transactions that you do, especially last year with the pandemic, where you might be buying things online through a department store or Amazon, you've got exposure through your cell phone or your laptop,
Right.
as well as businesses and organizations that also have that exposure. Every time they're sending out an email, they've got a website, they're collecting information or taking payments. So those are exposures that put them at risk.
Now, from the claims that you see, how has kind of the transition from working solely in the office to more of a home model affected this whole cybersecurity issue?
Yeah, another great question because we all went remote last year. We had to shelter, right? So we were working from home for a vast majority of us for the first time. And it really increased the cybersecurity risk for companies because they pivoted so quickly and some of them transitioned really smoothly. But sometimes people were using their personal computers for company work, or they just didn't have the network set up in time, and there was greater exposure that was taking place. So we had increased technology, and that increased the cyber risk exposure.
So now also we were talking about how now there's an additional layer where people are going back into their offices or maybe moving offices or trying to go to a hybrid model, that there's going to be a new set of things that in the insurance world you guys are kind of preparing for.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you've got to think about protocols that you might not have had in place before for a vast majority of your employees. So you've got to be talking about what's happening with laptops. How are you storing them when you're transporting them and bringing them back and forth to the office? There's now more of a need for education and training on cyber vulnerabilities. So really, the human is the first line of defense when it comes to teaching people about what could happen with cyber risk. So a great example of that is when you're getting an email. It's one of those where you think, what's going on with this email? It just doesn't look right. They're asking me to do something like right now. It's immediate. They want money. They want me to click on something. They want me to sign something. They want me to do something really fast. And that little voice that's inside your head that says, let me think about that. Really pause, think, don't click, don't open things, don't send anything. First thing to do is really pick up the phone and call the person that just sent that, because it might not be that person that really sent it. It might be a fake email. Call up and say, hey, did you really ask me to change your banking account for your direct deposit? Or do we really need to send that money right now for that closing? Because I'm a little bit confused on why the bank just changed. These are real life claims that are taking place, and you just need to think. And where we had so much happening, and we're still having it where we're working outside the home, we've got kids, we've got dogs, we've got deliveries, we've had, change in hours, and we're just trying to get things done. But sometimes we just need to stop, think, don't take any action, pick up the phone, be that human defense wall of saying, let me think about that first. and then take action, that 5 minutes will save so many claims and time going forward.
Right. So tell us about Hub International in terms of the cybersecurity insurance that you guys carry.
Yeah, so we write all lines of insurance, but we do specialize in cyber insurance, not only for individuals that you could have cyber insurance on your homeowners, but we also specialize it in commercial insurance for businesses and organizations of any industry. So any industry can and should buy cyber insurance to protect themselves. And not all cyber insurance policies are the same. So sometimes cyber insurance has been around for about 20 years. And initially they were putting first party cyber coverage onto the policy, which is good. It was like a Band-Aid approach. But now because of the ransomware and the size of the claims, you really need a full cyber policy that's covering you on your first party and your third party costs. So you want to make sure that as a business, you're covering any employee information, because when you sign up, when you get hired, you're giving out your date of birth, your location, where you live, your phone number, all this information to get benefits and get hired. So as an employer, you have to protect that. You also have your clients, right? Your customers who, if it's medical, you've got all your patient information that you've got to protect because of HIPAA. If it's financial, you've got more financial information that you've got to protect because you're working with somebody's money and you've got to make sure that that's secure. Or if it's retail, you're collecting credit cards or debit cards and you've got to protect that. So you got to make sure you have first and third party covered. You also need to make sure you've got funds transfer fraud covered and social engineering. So if somebody dupes you out of money, you want to make sure you have that coverage in place, right? So in insurance, if you part with your money amiably, right, you hand over cash because you bought something, you can't put a claim in for that because that's an exchange of money. But if somebody dupes you and misleads you, you want to make sure you have the right coverage in place and you can get that under your cyber insurance policy.
Well, I mean, Kelly, people should be calling you for all insurance needs, but especially if it's cyber. We're seeing that you guys are the leading insurance company in that area. But thanks for coming on today. Let's have you back again soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Jason. It was a pleasure.